Hello everyone, I'm Joel Baird, the General Manager of Missoula Community Access Television. We're going to give you a little special show highlighting some proposed changes at the Missoula Fairgrounds. And to that end, Mr. Todd Garrett is in the studio. He is the Fair Manager. Welcome, Todd. Thanks for doing the show.
Thanks for having me, Joel.
Oh, you're most welcome. So we kind of hatched out a strategy of how to let people know what these changes, proposed changes at the fairgrounds might be. And that would be starting with your presentation or a version of the presentation. You've been given this information out around town, right, to various groups and clubs.
Yes. Recently, the Missoula County Fairgrounds Advisory Committee has recommended a plan for consideration by the Board of County Commissioners. That started a 60-day comment period, which will run through July 27. At the end of the slides here, I have a website for people. It's Fairgrounds Concept at missoulacounty.us, also missoulafairgrounds.com.
That's an easy one.
That is an easy one, and I can refer to that at the end. But yeah, the Missoula County Fairgrounds Advisory Committee recommended the plan. Part of the public process then is, of course, to reach out to the public at large and show them the plan. And if you don't mind briefly,
yeah, go ahead.
I can explain that it all started when Crandall Arambula consultants visited Missoula.
I remember that now. I remember the name. You know, they came and did a lot of work, right, with the Fairgrounds Advisory Commission, stakeholders, all that sort of thing. And we recorded hours of this stuff some years ago.
Yes, 2008, 2010.
Wow.
And they came up with the design. And at that same time, the Missoula County Fairgrounds Advisory Committee was formed around that same time to take what Crandall Arambula started with that master plan and try to build it into something that's could actually be built at the fairgrounds someday. So then over the next 5 years, Joel, numerous groups and ideas were thrown around as the committee continued to speak with people that are at the fairgrounds currently and also people that weren't at the fairgrounds at the time. Also with all of our neighbors, YMCA, school, university. As we continued to collect information, the A&E architects, in conjunction with Bullock Smith Partners, their fairground-specific consultants, they came up with some concept plans. And I'm kind of whipping through these to get to the one that was recommended. I went through those other concepts there.
Yeah.
And, whoops, that is not working for me. Sorry.
That's all right.
Because
some of them you said that you had to page through this concept on the computer.
And I'm not sure how well we can see it up here. If it's
Scott, try it. You know, he's got a bit. This is kind of filling the screen.
Or I could do the zoom.
Yeah, he can do the zoom too. Look at that. So,
with the fairgrounds, maybe one thing to point out here, just to start in the very center, here we have historical acknowledgement of the racetrack with the finish line. These trees are along the straightaway. One of the prized, definitely more popular historical buildings is the commercial building on the fairgrounds.
Right.
You'll notice both the commercial building and the culinary building stay in the center of the fairgrounds. This open space area here, you can see creates a town square feel. Here's the historic carnival grounds. They're approximately 4 acres. You get that much green space, open space again into this area. One of the exciting things is to have this space, and then around the perimeter we have some of the new elements, with one being the extension office would move out here.
Oh wow, okay. They're way out in Santa Fe Court now off Mullen.
They are. And they're integral to the fair with being part of 4-H and a lot of the programs they have. Also be really accessible for their other programs with WIC and nutrition and that sort of thing to get out there.
Makes sense.
With the design, they have the 4-H cafe and the livestock building. So all 3 of those facilities really work together.
And this I always remember as the Marsda Hall, right?
Yes.
It's moving on up. Just to orient the viewer, South Avenue is just above your screen here. So this is the entrance many remember. And then I see there is some parking still there.
And that's a good point. the historical entrance with the Marsda building.
Yeah.
That's another great acronym, Missoula Area Round Square Dance Association.
Oh, I had no idea. I thought that was like somebody's last name.
And
Marsden.
it's got a nice ring to it. Building 35 and Home Arts, so we call it all those things.
That's where people remember, you see the quilts. When you go to the fair and you want to see all the quilts, it's in that building. But it has a great dance floor in it.
It does have a great dance floor.
Yeah.
Yep, available for rent anytime. So
Yeah, exactly.
Just to walk around the south part of the plan, as I was pointing in the, I thought it'd be good to give a brief rundown of the entire plan, just so that people could see. As we move down, we have the livestock center, and you can see my injured finger. That
I was going to say, you can see he's a hard-working guy.
That's right. Again, just like the livestock extension and 4-H, another key relationship is between the livestock, rodeo, grandstands, this new exhibit building, and then the maintenance.
Wow, yeah.
One thing that I'd like to point out right now is down here at the bottom, maintenance. The fairgrounds doesn't really have service routes. And so what this plan would allow us to do is you could come in, access maintenance, and maintenance can also access these buildings. But more importantly, big rigs with big animals could come in here and unload steers, for example, and continue out. And the public never has to be in these loading, unloading areas. Right now, a lot of that just has to be done amongst our fairgoers, and it's always a concern. So this is going to greatly enhance that.
I'm already seeing, MCAT, we went out to the fair and tabled at the fair for many years, and then we kind of took a break. But just from what I know about it, it seems like a lot of thought went into organizing the chaos that is there, like this maintenance route and the livestock route. And up here, putting in, now you didn't mention what the Learning Center Gardens are, but I assume it has something to do with the county extension office.
Yes, it is. Yep, it is with the county extension office. They're going to have a variety of demonstration gardens. Also, in that building, I believe, is a wet lab. I think it's important to note that while we're looking at this broad master plan, each one of these individual program areas, whether you're with the ice rink or the learning center, they're drilling down into some of the finer details of those designs.
Yeah.
But all of this is going to yield an amenity, resources that the community doesn't have. And we're right on the bus route. We're in between downtown and Fort Missoula, and it's just going to be a wonderful thing for the community. There's a wet lab and some demonstration kitchen, I think, also planned for that building.
Right, because you were saying before we started recording, one of the goals of the redesign was to make this area more year-round resource, so that it wasn't underutilized when the fair wasn't going on, that it was able to be utilized. And people have seen a lot of that with the hockey. And I was telling you how MCAT just recorded the Hellgate Roller Girls out in the rink too. But it seems like, particularly with the county extension, that they'll be conducting programs all year round and being able to bring in school kids and whatnot for programs that way.
And the livestock center, up here in the corner, the ice facility is keeping similar footprint. There's a llama barn up there, and that could be moved.
Oh, yeah.
And they could use that facility there. But yeah, they will all be able to increase their use. Same thing, ice will be busier. One thing that's non-existent is that accessible learning center, and once that's there, another key element that the fairgrounds does not have right now that most fairgrounds have, Helena and Kalispell, for example, is a good usable winter building. So this is the exhibit building during the fair.
Like the Four Seasons Arena in Great Falls, too, they have that.
Yes, this is a smaller version, but it's nonetheless a big open span building that during the winter or roller derby, numerous events could be held in there.
With the parking right there. Now, some of this parking looks so new to me, though I may be just not remembering it. Like,
Well,
was that there?
None of that is there.
Right.
None of that parking's there. And this is amount of parking, really the minimum amount of parking that allows us to build these according to code and
So
requirements.
there's a ratio of square footage to parking.
And in addition, when you have an event, there's quite a few events where you need to get up close, especially if people are buying big items at a trade show, for example.
Yeah, sure.
You're going to want to be able to park in there. As you mentioned, the year-round, and this might be one of the elements that I've heard quite a bit of excitement about from your average person that may not be affiliated. If you're affiliated with livestock, you're loving this because you've helped create this. Same thing with ice and other elements. But for anyone out there that may not be directly affiliated with these programs, think about this. You'll be able to bike, walk in through the grounds, past some beautiful gardens here. You'll be able to continue on unobstructed onto Playfair or out Fairview and then through the South Avenue Mall area. When there's not events during the fair, the grounds are going to be open, much more inviting for people.
Oh,
whether
nice.
you want to bike, picnic, throw a frisbee,
Right.
They're going to be there and they're going to be inviting. As a reference point, essentially, as you mentioned, this back area, it's not inviting to the public, not really safe for people to just wander around back here. So if you think about that, this whole area will then be usable space. And again, people will be able to cross through the grounds, access. There'll be large openings throughout the grounds, so it'll be create an open park town square feel when there's not events.
See, that's interesting.
And then it could be restricted for events because there's numerous events in addition to the fair. The upcoming dog show, for example,
Right.
that's coming up in a couple weeks, where they need to have that controlled access.
Sure.
So that'll be able to serve those events while allowing the public to enjoy the passive recreation, as they say.
Yeah, so it's a real change of gears because a lot of
Real
people
change.
do think of the fairgrounds as it's activated for 10 days in August and then it's sort of out off limits except for other stuff. And partly because it seems, well, there's a sense of it being unfinished maybe, there's just buildings and, the connecting roadways don't seem like it's inviting for cyclists or pedestrians. So the idea is to turn it more into a park than a deactivated space.
Right, to serve as a park when it's not in those events. Most people don't realize we had 544 event days in addition to the fair last year.
Yeah, no, I guess
and
I wouldn't.
We're at capacity as far as events because no one wants to have an event in a non-heated building in the middle of the winter.
Right.
But yeah, this will drastically increase the opportunities for those events, but also midweek, again, most people aren't having an event. You put it, you said it very well when you said the fairgrounds is not inviting.
Yeah.
They're not inviting. And if, for example, you could come picnic or hang out on the carnival grounds, but just it doesn't seem finished, like you said.
Yeah, like you shouldn't be there in some
Right.
sense.
Right. This will totally change that 180 degrees. It'll be an inviting place, I think, after, if this plan were to be approved and implemented, after a few years, most people in the community will wonder how they ever got along without their wonderful fairgrounds.
Yeah.
Because it's right in the middle of town, and it's going to provide ample opportunities for leisure activities.
Well, right, that proximity, because when I remember the Crandall, hard to say that other name.
CA.
Yeah, Arambula, right?
Yeah,
Sort of,
Arambula.
Arambula. I do remember recording some of that or editing it, and a number of people at that time and in the press, there might have been this idea that was very much attached to the idea of fairgrounds only being activated for the fair and say, well, why don't you put it out past the airport? Because there's plenty of free space there, and this is right in town, so we should turn it into housing or some other thing. So this kind of takes that criticism into account and says, no, open space inside the built area of Missoula is really diminishing. It's at a premium, that it seems like something in the rearview mirror. So that by making this more into a park structure, making it into more of a year-round heated building, exhibit building, it adds to the catalog of public activities that people can choose from in town. But by making it into a park, it takes that proximity to all those neighborhoods, like it's Midtown Missoula by now, and it opens it up like a central park, which is, arguably it's a pretty elegant use of the space too.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point you brought up from the history. I think one of the main tasks that Crandall Arambula did was look at a variety of other locations, and if it's feasible.
Yeah.
It's one thing to say, well, let's go build it in a specific location, but maybe it's not affordable or maybe it's not even available. And so they did truth that out, which helped decide that the location would remain.
Yeah. I remember at some point, I can't remember the age of the fellow, but it was one of the Prine people that are Prine Veterinary, and they were doing a Don't Do Fireworks PSA with us for MCAT. And I think the family had been there a long time, and the Prine guy there said, this was the edge of town. When it was first built, like they said, well, let's put the fairgrounds on the edge of town. It gives people an idea of how much Missoula's built out into the valley over the years. Well, I want to make sure I hit all the questions. And I think, the one that that strikes people, what is the price tag for the new, it says, how is the price tag for the new fairgrounds calculated? But I didn't ask you how much it might cost to undertake all these great changes.
And that's where, when we were coming up with some of the questions, that was the one that I was sort of picking on, is we don't have that figure yet, and the consultant isn't able to do it. Once they have some of these details, they'll be able to come up with some of that pricing, because when you're looking at several buildings, each one with a variety of details that could drastically affect the price or the infrastructure.
Sure.
So that the first process is
Public
decide
input,
on,
right?
Yep. There you go.
This is the plan you showed us earlier. Remember, and we went past it fast, dear viewer, A, B, C, and D. But the purpose of this presentation is not to say, here's the whole package from A to Z, but to say this is the preferred design by the stakeholders, by the consultants, by the people involved in this process. I mean, if it goes back, maybe a decade or more. So what does everybody else think of it, right? I remember people saying, broad criticisms, just to bring it to mind. Somebody will say, well, the fair is losing its bearings. It's really about the animals. It shouldn't be, carnival rides are okay, but it's really about crafts, and it's about animal care, the farming, the ranching, the things that were the impetus for the very first fairs to begin with. And it seems like, for instance, that is in play here with the livestock center, the rodeo arena. And I assume there'll be places where the chickens and rabbits and also bringing county extension in really brings that to root a little more, because they're all about plants, animals, ranching, and that kind of thing. So I just offer that as one example where it seems like somebody had a criticism of the way the fair was going. It was losing its bearings. Here are the bearings brought right back into it.
And this facility will allow those programs to grow. Interestingly enough, they have the largest 4-H livestock sale in the state at our fair.
That's surprising.
Surprised me, because I would think that places that are that have more of that type of operation, like large operation,
ranching,
right? I would think Bozeman or some of those, but no, indeed, it is our fair that has that large, and the agriculture component's pretty good. This building will allow for those programs to grow. They actually have to turn some people away and can't expand on the program just due to size limitations right now.
Wow.
And it's always a challenge, because what they do is they convert the ice rink into the livestock center for a week, and then we have to hurry and turn it back.
Ice it up again.
Right, it's going to be fantastic for everyone, both ice and the animals. And ultimately, I would, just to make that point, is this is an excellent plan. And I think any plan would do this, but this one in particular, on this point I'm saying it's excellent, is it drastically increases the safety and accessibility for everyone at the fairgrounds. And that's not just people, it's the animals as well.
Yeah.
Because getting them safely across the smooth concrete is really challenging. Some animals, like hogs, for example, need a good firm concrete surface. Other animals would benefit from a dirt surface like a steer, and this facility will be able to accommodate all of them.
Right, because you've got to look at this from your manager's hat. I mean, you're in charge of this enormous event in which any number of things could go wrong. I mean, in terms of safety and health, large congregations of people and animals. That's that's an endorsement then, as you said, any plan too. And I guess people have to look at it a little from the perspective, I can't remember, you know, you were going to do the Blitzkrieg Fair history, but it started a long time ago. And so everything was built around it piecemeal and so on. So this is the first time in the history of the fair, which may be over 100 years, that there's been an attempt to say, well, this thing has been growing, you know, just any which way for a long time, and here we're actually going to look at what happened and how we can consolidate and improve that.
Interesting, in my research, a lot of fairgrounds, including ours, are around 100 years old, you know, especially in the west part.
Yeah.
And a lot of them show their wear.
Right.
Because in the day, you'd build some buildings, you'd have your fair. Well, as areas become more populated, your fairgrounds become more valuable for other activities.
Right.
And so then that creates the need to put investment into that facility to use it more. Also, as we began to use our fairgrounds more, next thing you know, we're started to wear them out. You know, they got loved to death, as they say.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, now it's, you know, we've been getting a lot of attention to the fairgrounds. You may have read in the paper, we're fortunate, our county commissioners approved a loan that we're able to take.
Yeah.
Because we've had to make some code required improvements just to keep the fair open for this upcoming
Yeah,
August.
no doubt.
And so having a plan presented like this to the Board of County Commissioners is exciting in itself, because with a good plan we can make better decisions and use our money, jointly taxpayer money, more wisely.
Yeah. Well, gosh, I didn't even know how long we went on. Scott, how long did we talk? He has a lot of fingers. Well, is there anything you want to add? Something we didn't touch on when we went over the plan or anything?
Not sure.
Okay. Well, like, here was a question Katie had for us at Katie.
I was trying to reflect back
Right.
to, I started
If
rambling.
this plan
with
is
that.
approved, how does the final product benefit our community at large? What will people notice and appreciate once the plan is completed?
I think when I talked about safety and accessibility, I think that's what people are going to notice if this plan were to be created. There, with a plan, there's quite a bit of support, but people want to know what the plan is before they can, you know, firmly commit.
Oh, sure.
I think that the plan will allow things to start to happen, where, for example, if this plan were approved, pretty confident we could fund our maintenance building and people would notice action and improvements at the fairgrounds. And while we've made a few small improvements and there was the addition of the rink, as you mentioned, a lot of improvements haven't happened over the years. So one, I think they'll just take note that our you know, beloved fairgrounds is getting the attention it deserves. Also, I think they'll realize there's this amenity that we didn't have before, and it is that open town square
Yeah,
that's
that sounds
available
really
for
great.
enjoyment. And the place that you're enjoying having a casual lunch with your friends and family, you know, on a Wednesday or Thursday, then that next weekend could be, you know, an event with 10, 20,000 people.
Yeah,
so I think that's what they're going to notice, is the fairgrounds is just going to be bringing more people in. And I think that once this, if this plan was completed, I think that the number of people in our community that spend time at the fairgrounds would increase tremendously.
Gotcha.
As you mentioned, it's just not inviting. If,
Yeah.
as they say, you build it, they will come. And I think that also, just to also say, I think that it's not that inviting if you don't know where you're at. I think a key thing that people are going to realize is how much more permeable the grounds are for them, transportation-wise. They'll be able to bike and walk through the grounds and get to adjoining properties much easier than you can now.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great. Well, Todd, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you've been making the rounds, right? Sunrise
Trying to.
Rotary Club, and you're going to be tomorrow.
Tomorrow, meeting with the Missoula Downtown Association.
Oh, yeah.
This Thursday at 6 p.m., we're out in Frenchtown with the West Valley Community Council.
Okay.
I'll be visiting Sealy in July.
Yeah, it's a big county. I
is a
mean, this
big
county
county.
is huge, so the number of people that will have something to say about this, hopefully, will be huge enough. And, oh, let's repeat that. You know, is it MissoulaCountyFairgrounds.com, where if the public comment period will go on, dear viewer, until July the 27th. So the easiest way, I guess, is to go to the website. Oh, and Scott's got it right there on the screen, MissoulaFairgrounds.com, and there they'll see a place.
Right on the front page, you can click on the concept plan, and there's an email address, fairgroundsconcept@missoulacounty.us. Saying it slow so I can make sure to say that correct. But that's all right on the website. And then you can also remember to call 721-FAIR, reaching out to the county or Fairgrounds office.
Yeah.
We'll make sure and get you take care of and get your feedback.
Great.
And also want to say it's really it's exciting to present this plan that so many people have worked on, again, for over 5 years. And I think the Missoula County Fairgrounds Advisory Committee has worked really hard, and they should be committed for their efforts to bring this plan forward to the commissioners. So.
Yeah. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching this special edition about proposed changes to Missoula Fairgrounds. You'll see the program on, but I want to encourage you to take advantage of that MissoulaFairgrounds.com and put your 2 cents in. So we'll see you next time. For MCAT, I'm Joel Baird. Thanks for watching.